Good news today for One Nation. The final count in the New South Wales state election shows that Pauline Hanson has won a second upper house seat to go with the one won by Mark Latham, the former Labor leader. And as a result, it now shares the balance of power in that upper house with the Shooters and Fishers and Christian Democrats. They've got a sort of Conservative alliance going on. Joining me is One Nation leader Pauline Hanson tonight from Renmark, South Australia. Pauline, thank you so much for your time. The fall in the polls, that is a bad sign for you with the election, what is it, 5 weeks away or so. What happened?
About 5 weeks away. Andrew, look, I'm not going to take any notice of that. I believe that the true polling will happen on the day of election, May 18. When you consider in 2016, our national vote at that time was 4.29%. We're still at that point, 4%. So let's see what happens on the day of the poll. I still feel I'm getting a lot of support around the country from people who appreciate the work that I've done on the floor of Parliament and speaking up and being a voice for them. And it's true, I'm very, very excited, very happy for Mark to have actually pulled a second seat in New South Wales with Rod Roberts. He will be an excellent member in floor of Parliament with Mark. And they're there for 8 years. So One Nation is not going to go away in the near future. We're still around for at least the next 8 years.
But how much of that poll drop do you put to that Al Jazeera hit job on you?
Andrew, it may have been part of it. Who knows? You know, it's quite interesting how people speculate so much in the media, have given this so much airtime today because we've dropped a couple of percentage points in the polls and the criticisms. Yet when we go up in the polls, do anyone says, gee whiz, what's Pauline done? What has she touched on? What is there that in her policies that people are actually supporting her about? And I think people, you know, will understand that by voting for One Nation, especially in the Senate where we're targeting our energies and efforts, and of course I'm standing candidates in every seat in Queensland bar one, that to have the presence of One Nation and floor of Parliament in the Senate will bring accountability and hold the government to account on their policies. And I know you've spoken out against all these crossbenchers and independents, but it is the House of Review. And if you want good government, you must have good opposition. And we know that most of the time that on the opposition benches, they will oppose anything the government puts forward in legislation. So that's where you need the legislation to actually work with the government to improve their bit of legislation, or if it's no good for Australia, then don't support it.
I wonder, Pauline Hanson, whether one reason for your fall, and it's sometimes a risk to read too much into a single poll, but one reason might be that the contest between Labor and Liberal is defining, you know, starting to take quite a shape. There is a difference, and probably more a difference than there was when Malcolm Turnbull ran the Liberals, and as a consequence, your kind of Conservative voters might be more inclined to back the Liberal Party. What do you make of that?
Yes, you do have a point there. When an election becomes so close that people are very, very concerned about putting the Labor Party in, they'll go back to the Conservative side because they don't want to waste a vote. But can I say that voting for One Nation, if you vote for One Nation in the lower house, give us the #1 vote and then put whoever you want #2. If we don't get up, then your vote will flow to your #2. So therefore you're actually showing a protest vote that you're not happy with either political party. But it's imperative that we actually do get your #1 vote in the Senate, because that's where we can hold them accountable. They've had this attitude, they've treated the Australian people like mushrooms. They take the voters for granted. People are fed up with the major political parties that haven't really addressed the real concerns of the people in Australia. You know, here at Renmark, they've dropped the water supply today to 14%. Farmers are devastated. They're actually going to, a lot of them will actually shut up shop and go a bit, you know, and they're not encouraging their kids to take on the farming sector. So the impact, and here I'm in South Australia, it's got the highest water costs, the highest electricity, the greatest poverty in the state, and yet they've got a desalinisation plant only running at 2%, and they're pulling power from other states. These are the problems that are happening, and yet the government, in their budget, did not put any money towards South Australia for the infrastructure projects.
Don't talk to me of the desal plants. All those desal plants that people built mostly Labor politicians in the belief that
Correct.
global warming would dry up the rains. I mean, what a collective act of insanity. But listen, Pauline, you mentioned
Andrew.
preferences. Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. Okay, I'd say this one about desal plant. When you got a desal plant sitting there not being used because they can't afford the electricity to run it, and the whole fact is the money, is the water then is coming out of the Murray-Darling, which is devastating communities and farmers along the way. So wouldn't you run the desal plant to actually save the water in the Murray-Darling and the environment? There's no common sense, Andrew.
Look, you're living in a country that somehow, amazingly, manages to run out of electricity, so that ain't going to happen anytime soon.
Build a
Pauline, you
coal-fired
mentioned
power
preferences.
station here.
Well,
Yep.
they blew
All right.
up the last one, so that's not going to happen.
Yes,
You
it
mentioned
is.
preferences. Now, in past elections, you've usually not given your preferences so to hold the polls to the Liberals. You've usually put the sitting member last. What are you going to do this time?
Yep. Well, I'll tell you something, Andrew. You're not going to get an exclusive from me tonight with regards to preferences. It will be looked at on a seat-by-seat basis. I will be talking to the National Party, who are not that bloody minded that they said that we go below Labor. So we will be looking at those National Party seats if they still want to talk to me. But I'm not going to be treated like a fool by the major political parties and think that I owe them something. I owe them nothing. My allegiance is fighting for the people of this country and to try and get as many people as I can on the floor of Parliament. Since 1998, they have done their darndest, started by John Howard, to get rid of myself and One Nation. The people want someone else in their Parliament who's prepared up and make them accountable and raise the issues that is important to the Australian people. And that's why I say to the Australian people, you only have this opportunity because I tell you what, you get rid of me and One Nation, what we stand for, and being your voice, they will never allow another one to get up. And have a look at all the other political parties. Have a look at Cora Bernardi, have a look at Hinch, Jackie Lambie. Where are they? Absolutely gone nowhere nationally. So that's why it's important for One Nation. And that's why they target me all the time, because they know they have to get rid of me because they only want the two-party system in Australian politics.